Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Club Junkie podcast. I know this is coming out on Thursday, which is typically the the holiday of Thanksgiving. So if you are listening to this on Thursday or you listen on Friday, whatever, either I hope you have a great Thanksgiving. I hope you did have a great Thanksgiving. It's always it's one of my favorite holidays. I love getting together with family. I love eating, hanging out, seeing some people. And it's always fun. So hopefully, like I said, you have a great one. If you're traveling, of course, be safe. You don't have to rush. You don't have to do anything crazy or stupid. Get there when you get there. Just travel safe and have a great time. Enjoy family, friends, whatever you're doing, and have a great one. Let's get into the show. Before we get into it, I just want to let you know this episode brought to you by Titleist and the TSR line of woods. Listen, the hours have been put in. The work has been done. As the moment approaches, you either fear it or feel it. For Titleist, it's a moment filled with pure anticipation, the culmination of relentless pursuit of speed in every form. So step up and settle in with confidence. Titleist TSR is here. New TSR drivers take everything that made TSI the number one driver on tour and pack even more performance into every head. From new face technologies to CG improvements and aerodynamic refinements, when everything moves the needle, you're playing at Titleist speed. Go to Titleist.com to learn more about TSR metals and to schedule a fitting today. Titleist TSR, find your faster. So it's like I said, it's kind of a random day for podcasts. I know this one probably won't get a crazy amount of listens because it is on Thanksgiving and people will be doing stuff. It's Thanksgiving. It's pretty cool. I know, it's a time when you're thankful for stuff, and, I think everybody's thankful for different things, but I think a lot of people, we're all thankful for family, friends, any type of relatives, whatever that we have. I know I'm thankful for all my family. I'm very close to my family, which is great. So I'm thankful for them. And then, outside of that, I really am thankful for you guys who take the time to, listen to this podcast, follow along on Instagram at Club Junkie Pod, ask me questions, during my Q&As, watch it on YouTube and whatever, anybody who just, you guys follow this thing and it's pretty awesome. And I'm very humbled that a lot of, that you guys take time out of your busy lives to, listen to an idiot like me talk about some clubs, and we can go down the rabbit hole of brand new golf clubs and stuff like that together, and it's truly fun. And if you guys didn't exist and didn't interact the way you did and all that, I wouldn't be doing this. I wouldn't have this as part of my job. So I do appreciate all of you out there who take the time every week, whatever it is, to follow along. It is really. It is really special, so thank you. I truly appreciate it. So again, hopefully you guys have a good Thanksgiving, or did have a good Thanksgiving. I know I'm doing the kind of the guy with a young daughter who the family doesn't, I don't think, care so much about seeing me. I'm more the transportation of my daughter to and from my family and my wife's family of Thanksgiving events. So. It's one of those, I'll be doing a little bit of driving, a little bit of running around this year like we always do. But it's, it's all good. The grandparents want to see the little one. I totally get it. So we do a little back and forth between my family and my wife's family, and try to make it work best we can. It's sometimes tough with nowadays with people coming and going, and some people being there early or late or whatever. We don't get to see every single person every year, but we definitely try our best. So, and then I'm excited to eat, man. I'm a fat guy. You see me on here. Well, if you don't see me on here, you see me on YouTube. You probably see me on Instagram, whatever. I'm a husky gentleman, and I like to load the plate up, little turkey, gravy, turkey, mashed potatoes, gravy, stuffing or dressing. I guess everybody calls it a little different thing, but stuffing, dressing, cover it up. And then I'm a huge sweet potato guy. Love sweet potatoes or yams, whatever you want to call it. Big fan of that. I with or without the marshmallows on the top, doesn't matter to me. I'm good either way. And then just everything else goes along with it. So excited to put a little food in the old face this today or tomorrow, whatever. I'm actually recording this on a Wednesday, so it's the Wednesday before. I know this is also like the biggest bar night of the year. And my younger days, I would have been out at the bar for a little bit, hang out with some friends, whatever. A little old for that now. When you hit your 40s, it's tough to go to the bar and, least I think it is tough to go to the bar anymore. And so it was a good day. I actually got out and played today. It was like mid to high 40s for most of the day, so I jumped out at like 2 something and got actually 18 holes in before it got dark at just a little after 5, which was awesome. I swung it terrible, really, for the most part, but I didn't play great. Let's put it that way. I mean, I swung the thing terrible, but I made a few putts and actually hit a couple different decent wedge shots to not make it where I was absolutely terribly atrocious. But it's always fall. Like, I'm a big fan of fall golf, but I hate the days where you layer. And I went a little heavy today. Like I thought it was colder than it was. By the time I got out there and started playing, I actually got a little warm. But I just had too much on, and it seems like when you're out there, playing in the fall and it's 45, like I said, I'm wearing too much, thinking it's going to get colder as the sun goes down, and it did, but like that took a while, so I should have removed the vest early, but I didn't. But it was still a good time. Played with 2 guys, just got randomly paired up with. Was it Rick and Z? Super nice dudes. Rick's actually not a bad player. He hits the ball pretty good. Z just started out. And I tell you what, like, he just started out and he struggled in the first, maybe the front 9, and when he got to the back 9, he actually was hitting some really solid shots. So I think he said it was like his first year playing. If he keeps pushing at it, he can be a solid golfer. So it was a good time. Played with those 3 guys. We just kind of zipped through. Like I said, probably played. We teed off at 2. We finished at it was like 2. Yeah, it was just about 2, maybe just a hair, like a couple minutes before. And we got done with 18. We were done at 5, or just after. I think it was like 5:15, something like that. So it was just starting to get dark enough where you weren't gonna be able to find your ball very easily. And then I was a real genius and lost my keys while I was there. I was loading up my truck. I set the keys on the tonneau cover on the back on the bed. I have a cover on there. Set them on there while I was kind of packing up my Moto Caddy cart and putting my bag away, all that stuff, and then I auto remote started my truck. So like as I was walking over there, I remote started it, set the keys up there, thinking in my genius mind that, hey, I don't want to lock my keys in my car, so let's set them up here, and then I just drove off. I drive a Ram, and they have the little push button start, so you can start it and go. And it didn't care that the key fob was gone. Like, it didn't matter. So I lost my keys. So I have no house keys, work key fob to get in the door. I've got absolutely nothing. I went back, drove around, walked around the parking lot, couldn't find them. Kind of retraced my way back to the even to the freeway, all that, and could not find them either. So I'm gonna do a quick run by tomorrow when it's light out and see if maybe I can spot them with some sunlight. But if you're driving if you're in St. Clair Shores, driving by St. Clair Shores Golf Course, and you're driving down Masonic, going west, if you see my keys, they got a little Ram key fob and then a Masters little tag, green Masters tag as a keychain. Snag them. Let me know. I'll gladly come get them for you, and I'll make it worth your while. I'll bring you, some golf balls or some, maybe a wedge, whatever. If you find them, let me know, and I'll make it worth your while. If you do find them, hit me up at Instagram at Club Junkie Pod. If you do for some reason find them, but so it's a little bit of a bummer only because I got to replace all my keys, and that stupid Ram key fob is probably like $300 because it just stinks. So got to replace that. It's just. So that was fun. So it makes an expensive round of golf, but I went out there, played, had the ping stuff out there, the I-Crossover I-230 because I hadn't gotten those on the course yet. And I do have to say, like I said, I was not swinging well. I was hitting kind of a lot of things, kind of low on the face, a groove to a couple grooves low. And I got away with some shots that I did not think I would get away with, and it was pretty impressive how forgiving those I-230s are. They really do allow you to get away with some shots, and the ball comes off there much straighter and goes higher and farther than you would really think, even when you don't hit it flush. So that was really good. The I-Crossover, I struggled with it off the tee, which I struggled with kind of everything today off the tee. I found like a little stretch over between like 13 and like 17 where I hit it off the tee really, really good. But the front 9, all that, I was just struggling to hit it off the tee or anything off the tee. But I hit a couple, just monster shots out of the rough and stuff, out of the rough and off the turf with that thing. And just like the range, man, thing just goes high and goes a long way. I hit a crap drive on 18. I don't even know what I had in. I had like it was like probably like 230, 240, something like that in. I literally like flat out basically like topped the crossover. So I just held it, and brought it up there. I was just in the rough on the right hand side. And again, I didn't even laser it because one, it was dark. Two, I knew it was more than what the club had, and just destroyed a shot, just dead straight right to the green. And there's a cart path that runs out about, I think it's like 60, 70 yards in front of the green. The cart path runs out there, and when I hit it, I hit it over this fairway bunker, and I figured it would be just on the other side of the path. I was like, I hit it, but I hit it really good, and I was like, I'm pretty far away. I was like almost greenside bunker, the front greenside bunker. I was basically next to that in front of the green. Had like a really short little chip shot with a wedge, with the pitching wedge, and it was pretty impressive. But I mean, that shot was dead straight, high. But I hit a couple of those, and it was just high crossover was pretty good. I do say too, the one thing that I'll give it also, just as a quick update with it. I went out and I was messing with the new Mizuno RB and RBX balls that just came out, and I was hitting those, and I tell you what, like they're not the crazy softest ball. Like I brought some chrome softs as well, but I didn't end up using them. They're not like that soft or anything, but that eye crossover is way better with those balls than range balls. It loses a lot of the ping. It's not perfect. But it definitely improved the sound and feel off real grass with a real ball. So I will give it that it did surprise me in that way, where it did feel and sound a little better. So excited for that. Like I said, the 230s are really good. I had two drivers out. I hit a bunch of really good ones with TSR and TSR2 with the Ventus TR Red. I also had my tour issue Rogue ST Max LS head, the 10.5T head out there with the Regine 2.0, and I just didn't hit that combo that great. I hit that shaft better in TSR as well, but I didn't hit that great. I didn't hit 3-wood off the tee well. So yeah, it was just kind of an interesting thing. I hit 7-wood pretty well all day for the most part. Hit my that PXG 0311 XF. 7-wood pretty well for most of the day, but overall, like I said, I didn't hit it great, but it was great. It was a fun time. Had a good time. The two guys there were really super nice. It was a really good time. So glad I got to get out and play. It's not often that you get out this late in the year, the 23rd of November, and get to go play golf in Michigan. So it is pretty rare. So I did my Q&A on the course, which does limit kind of how many questions I can get through at a time. But I appreciate everybody's questions on that. And again, if you ever want to jump in on one of those Q&As that I do, at Club Junkie Pod on Instagram, I basically just go to my stories, say, hey, ask me some questions. And like I said, most stuff is just hitting it up about shafts, comparing shafts, or my experience with certain clubs, or whatever. So it's a lot of fun. I enjoy doing it out there because I can just walk and let my cart drive, and I can talk on the phone and record it. But I did have out there today. I've been to the range. I've been to the course. I played with some new product. So I've got some stuff that I finally got out there, and I was excited to play a little bit today. And the first thing we're going to talk about today is one that a lot of people were very interested in. I know it's been big in the forum, but it is the new Bettinardi HLX 5.0 wedges. So they're new forged wedges. They had an HLX 3.0. I don't know if anything ever happened with a 4.0. Never saw one. 4.0 didn't seem to ever happen, but these are the HLX 5.0 forged wedges. And these ones here are actually forged from carbon steel. They make two different finishes. They make a kind of a satin chrome and then a black, I think it's called graphite PVD. Which is this one here if you're watching on YouTube. It's kind of a black color, blackish gray. Two different colors, make a bunch of lofts, two different grinds. You can get anything from 48 to 60 degrees, and they make two different grinds when you get down to the 54, 56, 58, and 60. So they make an RJ grind and then a C grind. So the 48 and 50 and 52 only come in the C grind, and they're an 8 degree bounce C grind, but the sole is pretty traditional. It's not anything too too wide or too narrow. It's pretty mid-size in my opinion. The whole thing basically has milling everywhere, which is kind of Bettinardi's thing. The things look absolutely beautiful when you're sitting there. They've got the honeycomb on the back cavity. They've got a little, I think they call it waterfall milling off on the toe. That they actually use that to kind of adjust a little bit of the CG as well. But and then they've got what they call a high helix cut groove. So the whole face is, you can see all the milling on the face, all the grooves, everything like that. Is all milled out. So, of course, with Bettinardi, you'd expect to see a lot of mill work, and they definitely do that. And they're good-looking wedges. I do have to say, I'm always a sucker for honeycomb milling. It's just always been, ever since I saw my first Bettinardi with it, I kind of fell in love, and it's always been something there. So, seeing it on the back here is always pretty cool. Again, I really like the wedges. They're a little more rounded than, say, a Vokey. They kind of have a slightly larger look to them. They're not big. They are compact, but just, I think, the way they shape them in terms of the roundness, they do have just a slightly bigger look, especially like in like the 50. They do look a little larger than some other other wedges like a Vokey or Mill Grind 3 that has maybe a little sharper tone, a little more traditional look. But I think these look really good. I think the progression from hosel to leading edge is solid. The 50 is pretty much dead straight. It's got just a hair a curve to it down near the hosel and out near the toe. Other than that, the leading edge is pretty much dead straight, which I know for some people is a big deal. But the 50 degree for sure, pretty much, like I said, pretty much very, very minimal offset. I would say if you're looking at half a millimeter, something like that, you're looking at a millimeter, half a millimeter, it's very, very little offset. So they set up very well. Like I said, kind of a brushed chrome finish on there, so the glare is no problem. Today was actually really sunny. I had them out at the short game area like last week or the week before, and that was kind of a cloudy day, so of course, there was no glare or anything there. Today was definitely much, much sunnier, and had no problems with glare or anything like that. But overall, just a really classic-looking wedge. The leading edges are a little sharper than, say, the Vokey or the Mill Grind 3. Nothing too crazy. I do love the fact that the milling kind of wraps around the leading edge, which is pretty cool. And the milled sole. So if you order a 50 here and another 50 or whatever, they're all going to be the exact same sole grind, and there's just consistency there. So the C grind here, you don't really notice it on the sole of this of like the 50. You don't see a ton of trailing edge and toe, or trailing edge, toe, and heel relief. It's not like a big monster C. It just is there if you kind of move it around to the light a little bit, and you can kind of see where they've kind of beveled the edges. And then, like I said, you can see a little bit of that trailing edge relief. I think it looks really good being milled. I think the milled soles on like Mill Grind 3s on these, a lot of wedges that have it, I think are just, I don't know, it just looks kind of cool, and just something that, shows that they're, using that milling machine in a little different way. So, like I said, the C grind here, I do have to say on full shots, it wasn't crazy soft today. The ground is just really firm from it being cold. So, in terms of, playing with it, especially today with turf interaction, was really good. The ground's a little more firm. If you got super steep, you could take a decent divot and it would dig just a little bit. Not a lot, but just a little bit on the 50. But I do have to say that the grind is extremely versatile around the green. If you're going to basically chip, pitch, with this thing, you want to be able to still manipulate the face with the 50 around the green. It's really easy to do that. I do say it's kind of nice not having just a full-blown, full sole, because a lot of 46, 48, 50, 52s, it's pretty much a full sole, and that's it. Like, there's really nothing, there's not a whole lot to it. There's not a whole lot of options in those kind of lower lofts in wedges. And this having the C grind is kind of nice. You can go through and manipulate the face a little bit. The leading edge doesn't come off the ground quite as much if you want to open the face a little bit for a little higher lofted shot on a tight lie. Out of the rough, it does pretty well. Like I said, it does dig a little harder than some high bounce options. Like I'm kind of used to an SM850 with a 12 degree bounce and a little wider sole. So, for me, yes, this definitely has a little more dig to it than that. I think if you're a pretty average player, or even somebody who's kind of picks balls, or you're a sweeper, it's going to perform really well. I think you're going to like the versatility. I kind of found myself really enjoying kind of hitting those little pitch shots out of the rough and stuff like that. I've been getting more comfortable with. But with this wedge here, I felt like it was just a little more versatile, and that sole allowed you to kind of, you didn't have to play it just dead square every time. You could play the 50 and open it just a touch. You didn't have to move to this 56. You didn't have to do something like that. So I really like the versatility of it. It gave you some options. It played really well out of the bunker. I hit a couple bunker shots with it, one of which being a decently long bunker shot. And I caught it just a hair heavy, caught it a little high in the face. You can actually, you can't see it here, and you probably can't see it on YouTube, but, caught it just a hair high in the face. There's a little mark there, and still got it out. It still came out pretty well. Ball came up, short of the cup, but it was still right on line, and it still actually carried a little farther. I think I didn't give it credit for how far that ball was going to carry. When I first hit it, I kind of hit it and was like, oh, geez, I just kind of got it like, oh. And as I was kind of like, all the rakes were gone, so just kind of kicking the sand back into my divot, my shoe marks, I look up, and all of a sudden, that ball is pretty. I think it came up like 6 feet short of the hole, which I was kind of shocked that it got that close, and I actually made the putt. So, which was kind of nice. But like I said, overall, the versatility of the 50 is really good. For my game, when you get into a little softer conditions in traditional summer, spring, stuff like that, I just don't know if this quite has enough bounce for my game in terms of full shots. I just think it would maybe dig just a little more. I'd take a little bigger divot than I'd take with, say, my SM8 or even the mill grind, 52 that I have that I even bet a little weak because I think it's a 52 high bounce on there. So, this one here, like I said, being the 8 degree of that C, it plays really well. If you, like I said, if you're kind of an average, in terms of your angle of attack, if you're pretty average or pretty neutral, or even if you're kind of a sweeper, you pick the ball for the most part with your wedges, this C grind is going to be great. I think you're going to be able to really play a lot of different shots with it. And for those players who do like to open the face on a wedge like this, it's one of the few that I can think of that has kind of like a slightly different grind with that, trailing edge, heel, and toe relief. So, off tight lies, it spun really well. Out of the rough, for the most part, it spun really well as well. The 50 degrees, you're pretty much hitting the ball usually a little harder, a little more speed. So getting the ball to kind of hit on the green and stop is pretty easy. 50 here, I would say, is a slight bit higher launching than, say, my SM8 that I have. That's kind of my gamer. Now, they do have slightly different shaft. This is an S400 in here, or a True Temper Dynamic Gold S400, where I do have the Modus 125 wedge in the Vokey, so that does play a little part of it as well. But I felt like this 50 degree definitely had just a slightly higher launch than say like I said, my Vokey or the MG3. It definitely kind of felt like it hit a little higher window when hitting full shots from the fairway or from the rough, which for me isn't necessarily a horrible thing. I'm never that guy who hits it super super high, so hitting a lot of shots here. Feel on this thing is extremely soft. The wedges, in general, really, really soft. When you hit it in the center, it was just that really solid thud. You could kind of feel the ball compress off the face. It was like hitting something with a big, heavy piece of iron. It just had that really solid feel to it. When you started missing it up a little high, a little on the toe, you still didn't get a lot of harsh vibration out of it. You definitely felt the responsiveness. You knew that you missed it, but it definitely didn't have a bunch of harsh vibration, anything like that. Thankfully for me, I've been pretty consistent with this wedge, hitting it pretty close to center, if not dead center, just a hair up on the toe. But the shots there went really well. In terms of spin performance, the ball just, especially full shots, hit, stop, done. I'm not that guy who typically spins balls back. Maybe on like a par 3, if I'm hitting like a 50 degree off a slight raised tee and I'm hitting it in there, I can maybe get it to spin back. But out of the rough or even the fairway, I'm one of those kind of drop and stop guys, and it pretty much did that. So the 50 was really solid. Like I said, if you're a crazy steep swinger or playing super super soft conditions, the sole on it is going to be okay. It may not be your number one or your favorite, but I think it should do pretty well. If you play in a little firmer conditions or you're kind of an average to shallow type swinger, I think this thing offers you a good amount of versatility and a great amount of feel, soft feel that, if you're looking for that, it's definitely worth trying. But these things here, the 50 was really good. I was a big fan of that. And then the 56, which, let's see, which one, 56. So the 50, like I said, only comes in C grind. Didn't have an option. The 56 and the 60 did in the RJ grind, which I think it actually stands for Robert J. Bettinardi. I think it's his middle name, and I don't remember what his middle name is. Now the RG grind has kind of like this C grind where you can definitely see a little more pronounced of the heel, toe, and trailing edge relief. There's not a ton of trailing edge relief. It is there. There's not an absolute ton of it, but they do take a little bit off. So when you do open the face, you can, that leading edge doesn't come crazy off the ground. The finish on this one, like I said, is kind of this graphite PVD. I'm a big fan of it. I like darker wedges for the most part, rusty wedges, anything like that. And these, I think, kind of nail that. The shape, again, with the 56, a little more rounded. It's not a squared off toe. It's not a sharp. It's not a sharp a toe. Leading edge, again, still pretty straight. It's got just a hair radius to it. Just a little more than the 50, but it's still pretty darn straight. So if you're somebody looking for a more straighter leading edge in a sand wedge, this thing definitely has it. Again, much like the 50, the feel on it is really good. It's very soft. The carbon steel they forge, it definitely has a soft feel to it. Same thing with this. It's just solid when you hit it. You can kind of feel the ball compress, feel the ball come off the face. There's no real click to it unless you really miss it kind of either high off the face or low off the face. You have to really kind of miss it outside of the center to get a decent click or audible click out of it. Everything else is just kind of that whoosh and just kind of, and the ball just leaves. Spin on this, again, pretty good. Really predictable. I think off tight lies, it's really, really solid. The thing spins really well. Out of the rough, it definitely, you can tell, loses a little bit of spin. And again, we're playing today kind of, greens that are a little shaggier. They're not quite as firm, or they're not quite as receptive just because they're a little bit firmer just from the temperature, all that. But the spin is very predictable and pretty darn high. Like I said, off a tight lie, easy to hit the ball, check it up. Out of the rough, you're going to get a little more release out of it, but nothing too crazy. The RJ grind, I do like that it has a little more bounce. Now the sole isn't quite as full, so like say you open it up to play it out of the bunker, most of your bounce is going to be dead center of the club. You're not going to have a ton out in the heel and toe, but it does float pretty well through sand. The sand today was playing pretty firm. Nothing's been really raked too much. I mean, it's been kind of leveled out, but it was either slightly wet and shady spots, or is just a little more compacted in the sunny. So it wasn't as light as fluffy as it has been for most part of the year. St. Clair Shores has done a pretty good job with having some new sand in there. But opening up the face of this, again, pretty good for a 14-degree bounce wedge. Opening the face up, the leading edge does not really rise off the ground too much. A little bit more than the 50, in terms of the equal amount of opening the face. This leading edge will come off a little bit more. Now, again, if you're somebody who's a little more neutral, you can get the 56 in a C grind, which I think is 12 degrees of bounce. I think it knocks off like 2. It comes in at, the C is 12 degrees, so you take a little bit off there, and if you're somebody who's a little bit more neutral, this thing here will, you can get a little lower bounce on there. But the RG grind, again, really easy to open the face. It almost like when you set it down wants to open, the way they've kind of set up that heel relief. When you set it down, and if you were just like let it go, it just kind of flops a little open, which is kind of nice. A lot of little pitch shots and stuff like that I was hitting. I've kind of opened the face a little bit. Again, shot window slightly higher than some other wedges I've used. Nothing crazy, but definitely something that goes just a little bit higher than some other wedges I've hit. Consistency, as it was spin, all that, really, really solid. Out of the bunker, it worked played really well. I must have hit a handful of bunkers today because I did get some use from the bunkers out of these things. And the bunker plate of this thing is really good as well. Like, a good amount of float. Not too much sole there with the 14 degrees where you're going to get balls if you catch it, just a little bit. If you catch it a little too close to the ball, it's not going to bounce up, jump in, hit the ball thin, anything like that. If you put it in there, put the club into the sand a little bit of like an inch behind, it's going to hit, float through, splash the ball out with no problem. And I was able to get some actually decent height on some of the wedge shots that I hit as well, which I've been doing better at. Like this year, I was doing better at getting a little more height. A lot of times, my sand game, I'd always get the ball out. I would just come out kind of flat and hot. And if I didn't get a little bit of spin on it, it would kind of release a lot. This year, though, easy to get the ball up in the air. It just kind of thumps into the sand really well and has some good float to it. In the rough, it gets through really well. Like I said, it's got a slightly sharper leading edge, so cuts through the rough pretty well. It does kind of penalize you maybe a hair more if you catch it just a touch fat or touch behind the ball. It may penalize you just a hair more there. But, for some precision play and tight lies, I think this thing's going to give you a lot of good options. Like I said, 14-degree bounce, it doesn't play that crazy high. I feel like the D grind plays like it has more bounce than this. You can still kind of slap it into the turf, smack it into the turf, let it kind of bounce itself out, pop the ball up. I mean, you can still do that with it. But like I said, this to me kind of felt more, it felt exactly what it is, kind of to me in between like an M and a D grind and a Vokey. It kind of slid through the turf a little faster, a little easier like an M grind does, but it didn't quite have, but it had a little more, float through the turf, the sand, all that, but not quite as much as, say, the D grind did. So, again, really versatile. Love the feel of it. Spin was really predictable. Like I said, out of the tight lies, you're gonna get it to check up and stop really really quick. Out of the rough, you get a pretty controlled release. It's pretty consistent. The rough today at St. Clair Shores, they cut it down pretty good, so it wasn't anything crazy high in terms of rough. We weren't playing anything like U.S. Open style, but overall just a really solid performing wedge with really, really good feel. Like I said, really soft, and I would put it up there pretty much against majority of wedges out there that in terms of the softness of it. It really was. And then the 60 degree. So the 60 degree went with the graphite PVD as well, which I hope I'm saying right, because if I'm not, I've been saying it wrong the whole time. Hey, it's graphite PVD. All right, so went with the graphite PVD. I wanted, when they asked me what I wanted kind of like to have both finishes. So posting them in the forums and Golf WRX, we can have photos of both. So 60 went with the RJ grind as well, which is only 10 degrees of bounce. So this one's 10. I think the C's 8 degrees when you get into the 60. So I think it's C's 8, RJ is 10, and 10 is pretty solid for my game. A lot of 60 degrees that I play are right around that. And again, much like the RJ grind in the 56, even though the C has that name to it, this definitely has more of that trailing edge, heel, and toe relief. So you can definitely see it more. Again, I don't know if you're watching this on YouTube, I don't think you can really see it as well, but when you're out in the sun and have it in your hands, you can definitely see kind of where that relief is and where the bottom of the sole, where that bounce kind of is at its maximum. Again, kind of a sharper leading edge, and this one here, compared to, I'm not going to compare it to, like, say, the high toe 3, because that's got a ton of bounce to it. That's like, kind of wider sole, all that. But I think this thing here played a lot, very similar to the what do I want to call it? My mill grind 3. I've got a mill grind 360 with kind of the C grind. I don't know if it's the low bounce or the standard bounce, but it's kind of got a similar toe, heel, trailing edge relief kind of grind on it. And it played very similar to that, and I think that one's like a 10 or an 8 as well. And that one does, if I'm not really, really careful, it can get a little diggy sometimes. And this one here, I did hit 1 or 2 shots that I did catch just a hair behind the ball, and definitely came up short. I mean, it was you're definitely penalized for coming in a little bit early. You definitely got to get your club on the ball. The thing I forgot to talk about, again, really straight leading edge. If you look at it here, much like the 56, you get just a touch of radius from the hosel to the leading edge. You get a little bit of radius there. Other than that, it's pretty much dead straight. So if you're, again, somebody looking for straighter leading edges, these Bettinardi wedges definitely offer that. But the versatility on this, I mean, it definitely gives you the ability to open up the face. Leading edge doesn't come off. Maybe if you're playing crazy hard pack, a 60 T grind from Vokey will, yes, probably come off the turf, even less. But this thing here stays pretty darn low and gives you the confidence that you can pretty much get under the ball from just about any lie. Now the really soft, really kind of squishy lies, I was a little nervous with those, and I definitely played them where I was kind of making sure to get ball first, and I hit some of those a little more low on the face. but when you did strike it, in the center and all that, it was, again, slightly higher launching shots with a good amount of spin, and again, just really soft, solid feel. So, I mean, I would compare these to any other, when you look at a lot of the forged wedges on the market, most of the forged stuff is super soft. I know I was raving kind of early in the season about Mizuno's T22s and how soft those are. I think these are right with that in terms of softness. They just have that really kind of buttery feel, and you can really kind of feel that ball kind of compress off the face and come off. This one here, I didn't actually hit out of the bunker. I didn't really have a shot where I was kind of short-sighted with it. So I got the 56 and the 50. I was hitting bunker shots. But for me, I pretty much, when I'm playing out of the bunker, I pretty much play my 56 for the most part. I don't really play a lot of 60-degree wedges out of the bunker, just for, whatever reason. I guess I can get the ball up and out with a 56. Like I said, if I'm really short-sighted, I will, play a 56 or play the 60, but it's a little rare that I'll actually do that. So, the 60, again, really versatile, able to open it up. When you play it square, though, it's got a good amount of bounce. Like I said, you still got to be pretty precise with it. You still got to, make sure you get the, ball first as you come through. But, it is pretty, again, versatile. You can kind of play it squared up, play all the bounce. You can open up the face a little bit, leading edges come off, hit some high flops with it. You can even press it forward a little bit, take some of the bounce off, press it forward, and kind of nip it off the tight lie. I actually did that once. I kind of had a little downhiller that I had to wanted to try to put a little spin on to slow it down, and it's it worked really well. So I mean, there's a variety of shots you can hit with this thing. Like the other two, I think the window on these, the launch on these, is just a hair higher than some other wedges. Nothing crazy, but I think the window is just a slight bit higher than some others. But overall, I mean, these things are super nice wedges. In terms of, I know they're not cheap. I think they're over $200 on Bettinardi's site, but they really do play really well, and the feel on them is really, really good. So if you want to check out more, you can check out, we have the stuff on golfwrx.com about the new wedges, and then also if you go to bettinardi.com and check out all the options and all the details of the HLX 5.0 forged wedges. But they are really solid. They're really, really good. So I played the 3.0s, I think 2 years ago when they came out, and really like those. I think these things are just as good. I almost like, I think, the transition from hosel to leading edge a little bit more on the 5.0s. But they are really, really good. So, like I said, bettinardi.com. Check out the HLX 5.0 forged wedges. All right, so the Bettinardi wedges, loved them. And now we get into a club that I actually kind of surprised how many people requested. A lot of people wanted to know about this as soon as they kind of came out. And I don't know if it was more because of the putter or because of the putter shaft that was in it. But either way, I got a bunch of DMs from you guys. Want to know more and more about the Cleveland HB Soft milled putter line. So if you don't know, Cleveland has been rocking some milled putters, a couple different styles and stuff over the past few years. The latest one is the HB Soft milled, and which HB stands for Huntington Beach, but it's a line of putters that they basically are pretty nice, pretty high quality. They're usually a little bit more inexpensive. They've gone up a little bit over the past few years in terms of pure cost, and they're what they're called skim milled. So what they do is they cast a putter head, and then they go through and they mill it to the exact finishing shape that they want. So you can see, I here have the HB Soft milled number 11. Which is kind of like an Odyssey number 7 or one of those fanged putters that are so popular at the moment. They sent us a couple different models, and I know I've been using like a Bettinardi blade for the most part. But this is the putter that kind of catches my eye, and I think it's called the number 4, which is the blade from Cleveland. It's just really short from face to back, like the flange is super short, and it just doesn't fit my eye the same way that the Bettinardi, the 8 wide does. And then these new ones, these HB Softs, have the option that you can get a UST All-In graphite putter shaft. So this is a brand new shaft. I think we saw it on tour a little while ago. I think Greg got some photos of this thing a while ago on tour. And it's basically a graphite or graphite shaft for pretty much 3/4 of it. And then it's got a small tip section that goes over the hosel here. even the 4, I think it had the same design. They do make, like I was on UST's site, they do make one that's full carbon. That's just a 370 hosel, all carbon, all in shaft. So it's just straight. It would have to go in like a plumber's neck or something like that. This one here gives you the ability to kind of go over a post, which is this one here. Like the hosel here's got a little post that the shaft slides on top of. And I think they may make a version of this for like a double bend as well. But pretty cool look. Something that's super popular right now, which is the graphite or composite or multi-material putter shafts. So the All-In, I know a lot of people were pretty excited about hearing about that. I think maybe it's a 50-50 split of who wanted to hear more about the putter, who wanted to hear more about the shaft. But either way, both here and then, honestly, it actually kind of has a nice grip. This is the 72cc Golf Pride Pro Only, the Red Star. And it does have a Cleveland logo on it, but it is the Red Star, which is kind of got a unique material to it. It's got a decent shape, though. I like the size. It's kind of like slightly bigger than, I think they call it the Tradition or something like that, but it's a little bigger than that. But I like the material. The rubber's really tacky, and it's got a nice paddle shape to it, nice pistol shape to it. So I like the grip on it. Now, the downside was it's 35 inches. I play a 33-inch putter. And I didn't really want to waste the grip to cut it down in case I didn't like it. So I wasn't, just going to tear it apart just to do that. But overall fit and finish of the putter, really, really good. I mean, this thing's it's a $200 putter. If you want the All-In, UST All-In shaft in it, it's $250, so it adds a little $50 price jump onto it. But, for $50 for a high-end composite putter shaft, to some people that's worth it. Now I remember when these were like $120, and now they're up to $200. That's just kind of the way the world has gone. But they do a kind of a unique face milling on here that is basically supposed to be speed optimized, meaning if you hit it dead center or you miss it a little toe, a little heel, the further out, the way they mill the face with these larger and larger diamond sections, it's supposed to keep the spin and the roll, all that consistent. It is a little deeper mill there, which is nice because it does usually offer a pretty soft feel. The overall shape is solid. I mean, it's like I said, you see the milling on it, on the fangs, and milling on the face. I don't think they mill the top line, the back, or the cavity, or anything like that. They might. The cavity does look pretty sharp when you look in there. You don't see any milling marks inside of it, and it looks like the flange still has kind of the casting texture into it. But overall, a really really high quality putter. I mean, even for $250, and then the bottom sole has kind of a polished look to it. So for the money, for $250, which is far cheaper than a lot of milled putters out there, it does have a nice fit and finish. And I think Cleveland does pack a lot of tech and a lot of quality into these putters. So like I said, first cast, skim milled. But it still looks good. I mean, it really does. I mean, like I said, you can see all the milling marks on the face, see all the milling marks on the flange. And like I said, these cavities here are pretty sharp, so they probably are milling those as well. But this one here, I want the slant neck. And this just because I kind of like the feel. They sent like 3 putters in, and I like kind of the feel of this one in the office, so I brought it home to try it. And then, so in the course, again, what you would kind of expect. I think I've hit a handful of these putters here. I don't know if I've talked about every one of them, but I've hit a handful of these putters here, and I do have to say the feel on them is really, really good. I mean, especially for the money. I mean, these things go up against stuff that's twice the price with no problem. The feel on it's pretty good. The kind of the deeper mill, these large diamonds, do give a pretty soft feel to it. There's just a little bit of click depending on the ball you're using. I was out there with basically Pro V1s and Pro V1Xs. You could definitely feel the difference between the two. It's that responsive. Just a small amount of click to it. The roll on the ball is really good. Pretty minimal skidding, minimal hopping. There's just maybe just a touch that you can watch the ball as it leaves the face before it starts kind of forward rolling. You can kind of watch it kind of stay the way it was aligned, and then hits and rolls. But the roll overall is really good, and it really is consistent. Speed control, like we said, with milled faces and all that, is typically what everybody finds the best, and there's no problem with this thing here, even though it does come off with pretty minimal skipping, hopping, comes out with some good forward roll. It doesn't come off super hot. Like, there's no, it's not like you hit it and the ball just takes off. It's pretty controlled, pretty much what you'd expect when you hit a putt with it. Now with this here, I always do mess around because I do want to know. So I'll hit putts, on the putting green. I'm trying to hit them center, but I'll line some purposely up off the heel, off the toe, and hit certain shots. And I do have to say the shots off the heel, pretty much dead on. I mean, they pretty much just came up just a hair short of the hole, but carried more distance than you would expect from them. The ones off the toe did kind of fall a little bit shorter. Nothing crazy, but they did fall just a little bit shorter of the target compared to the heel strikes. And I don't know if it's maybe just because there is a lot of toe hang on this putter. If you can see, I mean, it's pretty much like almost basically a 430, a 4 o'clock, 430 type toe hang. There's a good amount there. So I don't know if maybe there's just, as that toe's starting to close, it just hits it and kind of keeps the ball out. But shots of the toe will stay a little bit right at target, come up a little shorter. But strikes on the heel stay pretty straight, and they go, a good ways. Like I said, they would just come up short of the hole, just very, very short. I mean, you almost think you're going to make it with the ball kind of rolling out, and it's one of those, as you watch it, you're just like, oh, give me half a roll, full rotation more. It's all I need. But shots struck on the heel were really solid. I say toe, you could notice, and again, when I was hitting off the toe, I mean, I'm lining it up like out here. I'm out at the basically where the flange is or where the fang is. I'm kind of lining it up off the inside of the fang, which is a good probably half inch from center. So I mean, you're probably not hitting that far out on the toe. For the most part, sometimes you do. I know I've done it before, but for the most part, you're not hitting it that far off the toe. But that shot there, like I said, will come up a little bit short, and it does kind of stay off to the right a little bit. Maybe you're somebody who maybe shuts the face a little faster, maybe you can kind of compensate for that. But for me, which I'm a little more, I try to have a little bit of arc in the stroke, but not an absolute ton. I'm kind of in between having a lot of arc and straight back, straight through. So, like I said, shots hit off, a decent ways off the toe. I would notice a little performance difference there, but stuff on the heel pretty much stayed, right on line, right where it was. It just came up maybe a hair short. So I think there is something to the milling on this face. The feel on it, even those mishits, is really good. If you're somebody who's, crazy about the feedback on your misses, this is going to mute a little bit of that. The way they milled it, and like I said, kind of made those diamonds, different patterns, different shapes, and all that stuff. It does mute a little bit of that responsiveness, because if you do miss it just slightly off the heel or toe or the heel, just a hair off center, it's going to feel pretty close to center. You're going to have to really be on the lookout or dialed in to notice that it's going to be something different. Like I said, consistency on it is really, really solid. The All-In shaft is really good. It was the first time hitting it. I would say, out of everything I've hit, I would say the stiffest putter shaft I've hit is probably the Fujikura MC 115 Extra Firm. That thing is just crazy stout. And then you get into the firm. I feel like the Acra graphite putter shaft that they did for Lab Golf is very similar to that. I think the BGT, the stabilities are just like kind of in between firm and extra firm on the Fujikura scale. And this thing here, I think, kind of comes in just a hair softer than the firm. I feel like it's got just a little more flex to it, which isn't a bad thing. I found that, I thought when Fujikura came out with those, MC putter shafts, I thought immediately, well, I'm just going to be an extra firm guy. I want the stiffest one they make. And then after hitting them, I found that the firm was kind of the best match, which is, a little stiffer than steel or traditional steel, but it does have just a little bit of give to it, and I think it gives it just a little softer feel to the putter. And this thing here, I think, does give a little softer feel. From the HBs I've hit before, they were a little more crisp than this. I think this putter shaft, this carbon shaft, does soften it up just a little bit. Takes out a little bit of that audible click and does soften up the feel and the sound just a little bit. Consistency with the shaft was really good. Like I said, it's just got a little bit of liveliness to it that you can just kind of feel. It's not crazy insane stout like some of the other stuff out there. And I think UST has kind of dialed that in to be kind of more really stable, but but have a little bit of feel to it, because you can get so stiff and heavy and all that you lose a lot of feel. But the feel is softened up just a little bit. And overall, I think the consistency of it's really good. I mean, I felt the whole time, much like a lot of these, graphite or stability shafts, graphite shafts in putters, that you really get a good feel for where the head is throughout the whole stroke. I think UST kind of nailed it with this one too. I think you do really know where that head is throughout the whole stroke. You never feel like it's either under or over rotating, through the stroke in any way. Which, to be honest, I felt like some really the cheaper steel shafts and some putters like these would kind of have that softness to them, where you kind of wouldn't know exactly where that is. This thing definitely tightens that up quite a bit without being crazy harsh and crazy stiff. I don't know what the true weight of this bad boy is. Actually, let me check. Does that tell anything in the specs? No, it does not. I was hoping it would say like what the weight is on the shaft, but it does not. So I don't know what the exactly weight is. I'm gonna guess and say it's probably a little bit on the lighter side. It's not going to. I don't think it's going to be like that 135 gram or anything like that. My guess is it's probably going to be like that 120-ish range around there. Even UST site doesn't say anything about it yet. They're not giving any details on it. It pretty much is just, just on their site, giving a little bit of detail about, being 100%, 100% high modulus carbon fiber on the top and, the steel tip section. But the shaft feels really good. I think it's one of those that, putting it in some other putters or whatever would be pretty interesting as well. But I think it is really stable. I think it does have a good feel to it. And I think just soften up the putter just a little bit, which most people are looking for, a little softer putter. They're not looking for anything crazy harsh or anything like that. So this thing here really has a good combo. Now, $250 for this head, this shaft, this grip, is starting to get a little more to the expensive side. But again, I mean, if you're going to buy another milled putter by a big brand, you're probably going to pay $400 plus on one of those, and that's probably without any type of upgraded shaft on it. But overall, the thing is really solid. Like I said, the 11S or the 11 or 11S is really good. I really like it. It's my favorite one out of the three that they sent in. They make a handful of models in this thing, but and then most of them they make like slant neck and then like double bend. So they do make a double bend to this one, which is face balanced. But I kind of like the little slant neck. Gives it kind of an interesting little look. It adds just a little bit of toe hang that through my stroke I think just matched up really well. Like I said, the first thing I did was kind of toss them on toss a few balls down in the office, hit a few putts, and then the one that I liked the best, which is this one, brought home to take it onto the putting green and onto the course. So hitting putts with it today, it really did roll the ball really well. And for $250, I think it rolls as well as anything, that is in a far more expensive category. So, Cleveland makes a solid putter. I've always, people have always asked me what's one of the best bang for the buck putters out there. And I think I've always said basically at some point in that sentence reply, that Cleveland stuff is really, really good. And if you're somebody who wants a milled face, who wants that kind of, that type of distance control and things like that, but you don't want to spend $500, which I totally get, it's worth taking a look at these things. I mean, it really is. These things are really, really solid. And I know some people will say, well, it's only skim milled. It's kind of cheater milled. You don't notice the difference. I mean, realistically, there's really no difference in terms of the milling. The milling doesn't really, I mean, yes, the face milling will change the softness or whatever, but it's not like going forged versus cast or stainless versus carbon or anything like that. Stainless versus carbon steel, none of that stuff. It's not actually going to affect a lot of the feel and responsiveness, but the thing does have a really good look to it. I think the shape-wise, they did really well. Like I said, if I could nitpick on it, I would say the top line's a little thick. Looking down at it, I wish they thinned that out maybe just a touch. But other than that, I think the putter's got a good proportion to it. The shape is pretty solid, and overall, it's a really good look for the money. So, like I said, the USD shaft probably reduces more vibration than the Fuji. It probably softens things up just a little bit more. Hitting them kind of side by side. I had my Bettinardi in the bag as well. I kind of had two putters, two drivers, had a couple extra clubs in the bag this week. But the overall feel on it is probably just a little bit softer. Than in terms of muting vibration, it probably mutes a little bit more vibration than the Fuji. While being just a touch softer. But the look of it's solid. It's pretty much just a matte black shaft, matte black with a silver tip section on it. So pretty traditional look, nothing distracting, anything like that. And honestly, if you're looking down at it, it kind of reminds you of a little bit like a matte black Stroke Lab shaft, even though they're kind of different animals. But like I said, the HB Soft HB Soft milled putters from Cleveland. Again, if you don't want to spend $500 or $400, whatever, on a milled putter, I think it's you got to go take a look at these things and see how they work, how they work for you, and take a look, because for the money, it's gonna be tough to beat. You might even be able to get Santa to leave one of these under your bed, because not necessarily going to leave a super high end one unless you've been a really good kid or a really good person. But like I said, the HB Soft milled, really good. I was really impressed with it. I think again, they didn't Cleveland didn't go wild with the upgrades, but they also didn't mess it up. So it's like I said, a good price point there. And like I said, $250 for the one with the all-in shaft, $199 for just the stock steel shaft. So little difference there. And like I said, if you don't want to spend the extra $50, hey, you don't have to. You still get a pretty darn good putter, and they make quite a few head shapes in these. I kind of wish they would have sent me the 8P, because that was would be similar to what I'm putting with now. But either way, I think the 11S is pretty cool. So like I said, that's the Cleveland HB Soft milled putters. So go check those out. If you go to clevelandgolf.com, you can check out all the head styles, all that. I'll give you all the information there. And that's all I've got. I'm going to go relax, probably go to bed. The little one was up a little bit. She wasn't feeling great, so she was up last night quite a bit. So my wife and I are a little tired. So I'm going to go wrap this up, go to bed, and enjoy my Thanksgiving. So again, everybody have a great Thanksgiving. Be safe, please, in your travels if you're doing any of that. And everybody have a great one. Cheer on my Lions. I guess if you're not from Buffalo, you probably won't. But we could use some wins. So maybe throw us a bone. But anyway, I hope you guys have a great one. Again, follow me on wherever you're listening to this. If you could subscribe, like, how many stars, whatever, thumbs it up, whatever. I mean, anything you do, the algorithms totally help us. So we would really appreciate it. If you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe, like, click the bell thing. I mean, I don't know how it all works, but anything there just kind of helps our exposure. And the more exposure I get, the more stuff that people will send me to go hit, and the more stuff I can share with you. So let's try to get more cool stuff. Follow me there, and then also on Instagram at Club Junkie Pod. And if you have any questions, comments, anything like that, hit me up there. So anyway, again, everybody have a great Thanksgiving, and we'll talk to you next week.